Hmm. Let me ask you something.
Hmm.
Can a man lead and still be vulnerable? Can he show vulnerability and still consider himself a leader?
Uh, in so many ways,
Mm-hmm.
everybody show their vulnerability,
Mm-hmm.
meaning everybody show weakness.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody is 99 across the board, 100 across the board.
Mm-hmm.
But I do believe when you get down to trying to offer your vulnerability,
Mm-hmm.
then no, I don't think you can. Not the way that you're gonna want.
Mm-hmm.
Because in order to be a leader, the person that's following has to have faith in you.
Mm-hmm.
Not logically, no, but you have to have faith in that person.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever decision they make, you have to have faith that they're able to make a decision and follow through with the decision. Now, whether the decision is right or wrong, you have to have faith because you can't follow somebody that you don't believe in. And you can't have two leaders in the same place because they're gonna want to go left and the other want to go right. You
So, do
see.
you think vulnerability is limited to woman and man when you talk about a man being vulnerable? Is it a man being vulnerable to a woman, but or can you say a man should be vulnerable to another man, like his best friend or his somebody he deems as he has high regards for? Is it okay for him to be vulnerable with that person?
Yeah, that's who. If you have somebody like a best friend or
Mm-hmm.
a mother,
Mm-hmm.
you can be vulnerable to them. But your spouse and your girlfriend,
Mm-hmm.
like a lot of you guys that get out there, man, and I'll be honest, you start following the direction of the woman that you with,
Mm-hmm.
and what happens is she convince you that you need to break down and be vulnerable. You need to be able to show her that you can cry and feel those emotions.
Mm-hmm.
But what ends up happening, bruh, is deep down inside you have two things that you don't that's operating.
Mm-hmm.
It's femininity and masculinity.
Mm-hmm.
Femininity is attracted to strength.
Mm-hmm.
Masculinity is attracted to a feminine energy.
So
And
basically, what you're saying is if a man shows vulnerability, he's not masculine.
well, in so many words, yes, that works against you. That works against you because
So, how can he be vulnerable with his mom, who's a woman, and not be vulnerable with his
because he's not
wife?
because he's not leading his mother. That they're in two different positions.
Hmm.
That woman, if that woman has to believe that she can trust, protect, you can be protective. I
So,
mean,
you're saying that a man should be vulnerable, just not to his spouse.
no, not to his spouse, not in that way,
Hmm.
because a woman has to know that you are emotionally strong because she's most likely emotionally weak. That's why women are all over the place. That's why they feel all different kind of ways. They wake up one day feeling this way. It just they're guided so much by their emotions, and that's an instinct. That's a protective instinct that women have that God has provided them with to be able to protect themselves because they're not physically strong like men. And a lot of guys don't understand this part. Just like guys be like, man, be crying and all that stuff, man. Listen, you
So, you
got
think something wrong with a man crying in front of his woman or crying to
absolutely,
his woman?
absolutely. You got two times to cry. You got one time to cry a year, and that better be when your parent die or you lose a child. And then you shouldn't even be crying then because it shows her that there's a point where she might not be able to follow you because you're gonna break down and you because when you start crying and getting emotional,
So, you think because a man cry, a woman thinks she shouldn't follow that man?
it's not whether she thinks it. Naturally, she feels it. Now she
No,
might not
not
say it, she might not think it,
no,
but naturally,
no.
that's what
That's not
happens.
true. That's not true.
I mean, it is what it is. And a lot of people gonna
That's
disagree
not
with
true.
me,
Yeah,
but
I disagree
start
with
crying and
you.
see what in front
I
of your woman
disagree with
and see
you.
what happened to your
You
ass.
know, I
Start
disagree
start
with
all
you.
that
You know,
crying
I
and see
think
what
that's
happened
some
to
of
your
that
ass.
overzealous masculine energy there that thinks they can feel that way. Because when a woman chooses to follow a man, she wants that man to be somewhat vulnerable to her because it makes her feel like he's giving her something that he's not given to any other woman. Now you don't want a man who just every woman he crying into, every woman he's emotional with, but the woman he chooses and deem as his, give her, he marries her, give her a last name, she would like to believe that other than God, vulnerability comes with her, that I am the one other person that you could come to and bare your soul and trust that I won't harm you. That's what they want to believe, that I, you trust me enough to give me something so precious. You know, if she then turns on you and don't want to follow you based on that, then that woman never was going to follow you or submit to you in the beginning.
That's not necessarily
Oh
true,
yeah.
because this is the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you don't have to cry for a woman to know that you're going through something.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to uh lash out for a woman to know she's gonna feel that energy. But what she need to know that no matter what you going through, you're gonna push forward.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's to your detriment, whether it's to your death, whether it's to the best outcome or a good outcome, she needs to know that he's going through something. He's gonna push forward, because when she going through something, she gonna break down and go and get in the bed and put the covers over her head and start crying.
That's not
She
true.
don't want to. She don't want to. Well, feminine women will. If you ain't no
So
feminine women,
so you
you
say
you
if a
start.
woman doesn't break down and start crying and get into bed and put the covers over her, she not feminine.
Well, for the most part, that's
Please
how
don't
women
believe that.
handle problems.
No, that's not true. How how could a woman work in a workforce if you think that's how she's saying it handles a problem to always run and cry? Don't, please don't say that.
Every time you look, a woman could get pulled over by the police and start crying. Woman, every time. Why you think every time a woman is on the stand, she break down and
So when a
start
woman
crying?
doesn't do those things, she's not feminine.
Most feminine women cry. Most feminine women cry. That's how they. That's why they're feminine. If you hard, yeah, you gonna handle it like a man. You ain't gonna
No,
show
you
no
know,
emotion
you don't
because you
have to cry in
masculine.
every situation to.
I ain't say every situation, but most situations that arise.
Okay.
That's why that's why when they're raising sons, you can tell they raised by a single mother, because
Crying,
they start crying every time something happened to them. They start crying.
crying can be can be a sense of outlet. Like you can be so angry sometimes that you cry. It does not mean that you're weak. You're talking as crying is always a form of weakness, or you know, I give up, or it's too hard for me to handle. No, crying can also be a sign of I'm about to hurt you, you know.
For a man, crying ain't gonna make the situation better. It's gonna make a woman feel better. It's gonna make a woman release. But for a man, it ain't gonna make you feel better, because the problem still exists. You need to find a way to fix the problem. Sitting there crying ain't gonna get the problem fixed.
You know, crying out, it's who you cry out to. Men are allowed to cry out even if you're on your knees crying out to God. There's nothing wrong with crying out. You know, that's being human. Now I agree with you when a man is always boo hoo hoo and turning over something that's going on there, that is not masculine. But to say that crying out, there are going to be moments when women are not going to cry, and most men would think, oh, she should be crying right then. And there's going to be moments when men will cry and they have a reason to cry
What?
out. You know, the loss of a loved one, you know, a loss of a child, you know, the loss of a sibling, you know, something can, the doctor might say they have to amputate your legs, or your manhood. Something happens where you're not that those are reasons to cry out. You lose everything. Those are reasons to cry out. It's just who you cry out to and when you cry out.
Man, listen, you following somebody and a problem arise, and it's a serious problem. I
Hmm.
mean, it's for during their life or death. You don't want to see them sitting there crying. You want to see them sitting there figuring out what the hell we're gonna do
So you
and
think because
fixing the
he's crying,
problem.
he's not
No,
figuring it out?
no, you worry about crying. You ain't
Oh
figuring
my
nothing out. You
God.
crying.
Okay.
You sit up here crying. We
Mm-mm.
gotta stop what I gotta stop what I'm doing and rub you on the back and
No,
to
he may
stop you
be
from
crying
crying.
because he know what he got to do is
Ain't
even
no
harder than
crying.
what he facing.
Shit, just do it.
Mm,
Nobody want to hear that.
Yeah.
And see
Okay.
you, and that's the attitude that a lot of women
Because we deem
do with their
crying as
son.
a form of weakness when
It
it
is.
isn't. It's not.
It's a
It's not. It's
like,
not always a form
wait,
of
wait.
weakness. It's a
Put
form of letting out.
put it like this. Put it like this. Let me rephrase this.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay for a man to cry,
Mm-hmm.
but you need to go by yourself and cry.
I just said that. Cry out to God. Crying out. It's where and when you
So
cry out.
that's what I'm saying. So maybe we on the same page with this. But I'm thinking, or I probably said it, crying in front of your significant other.
Mm-hmm.
You don't, as a man, you don't need to be doing that
Mm-hmm.
because you're leading, crying in front of your children. You
Mm-hmm.
don't need to be doing that.
But
You
I
need,
mean, as a man, if that's something you feel that makes you more of a man not to do it, then you should move accordingly.